4 spine-chilling true stories of sinister hauntings and cursed secrets revealed from the shadows. Lisa sat alone in her dimly lit kitchen, the clock ticking away the minutes like a countdown to doom. She could hear the haunting creaks of their old house, the walls whispering secrets that had long lost their innocence. Outside, the moon cast eerie shadows across the lawn, turning the familiar into something sinister. The laughter of her children, once a comforting melody, now felt like the mocking echoes of spirits that resided in the quiet suburb of Ohio. Just last month, she had a job, a reason for hope. Now, she was a single mother working late at the local diner, slipping deeper into a world where shadows danced and dread clung to her skin like a second layer. The rustling outside became an unwelcomed guest in her thoughts, each noise sending icy fingers up her spine. Was it just the wind, or were there things lurking beyond her window? Every creak in the floorboards and every whispering rustle made her heart race. She told herself it was just exhaustion. After all, how could any harm come from the friendly faces of worn-out neighbors? They would help, wouldn't they? Yet, it all changed one night. A seemingly regular shift turned into a waking nightmare. Panic gripped her chest as she received a frantic call. Her eldest, little Samuel, had vanished. She felt her world tilt, fear gripping her as she raced through the narrowing streets of her suburb, calling his name. The silence was unnerving, her shouts swallowed by the night. Front doors that had always been open were now tightly shut, curtains drawn as if the entire community had turned against her. Their eyes averted, their faces blank when she pleaded for help. It was as if they all shared a dark secret that felt slippery and ominous, just out of reach. Hours passed, and when Samuel finally returned, his eyes wide and brimming with terror, Lisa knew the suburb she called home was tainted. He couldn't form the words to explain what had happened, only shuddered, repeating over and over, "Mommy, I saw them." The whispers she had dismissed now echoed louder in her mind. A cult? A hidden past? She felt the familiar feeling of dread crawling back into her bones, a cold sweat breaking out as she pieced together fragments of half-forgotten childhood rumors. Fueled by desperation, she confronted her neighbors one by one. Each encounter darkened the shadows around her life. They were guarded, lips tight, only delivering cryptic warnings about dark rituals tied closely to her family history. The more she pried, the more she felt the noose tightening. Each door she knocked on closed with a definitive finality that rumbled in her chest like a low growl of thunder. The protectors had become the monsters. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The nightmarish whispers grew sharper, a chorus of frantic scratching that seeped under her skin. Every evening was a new descent into madness. Laughter morphed into a chilling tune, a harbinger of the horrors to come. Just when she thought she was losing her grip, she heard her youngest, Emily, chirp from the backyard. "Mommy, there's someone in the backyard." Lisa's heart dropped. She turned, adrenaline spiking, the realization dawning. What waited for them in the darkness? Could she confront this terror before it swallowed them whole? Or had they already become part of the cursed legacy haunting her suburb? The shadows loomed closer, and fear began to wrap around her heart like a snake ready to strike. The darkness in the backyard swallowed the faint light, expanding like a living entity. Lisa rushed to the door, her breath quickening as she prepared herself for whatever lurked just beyond the threshold. "Emily," she called out, voice trembling, desperate to keep the fear from choking her. "Mommy, please come." Emily's voice was high-pitched and panicked, cutting through the suffocating silence. Lisa flung open the door and stumbled into the cold night, her pulse hammering in her ears. The backyard stretched before her, a mix of shadows and starless sky. The only movement came from the leaves rustling above. Lisa scanned the area, eyes darting from one dark corner to another. The swings creaked eerily, an echo of laughter now twisted into something monstrous. "Emily, where are you?" She felt like she was diving into a void, with no light to guide her way. And then she spotted her daughter, standing frozen near the old oak tree, face pale and eyes wide. "Emily!" Lisa shouted, almost running to her, but something held her back. The strange tingle of a dark presence crawled up her spine. Just then, Emily turned slowly, her eyes glassy, not quite seeing her mother. "They're here, Mommy," Emily whispered, as if she were in a trance. "They told me to come." Fear clawed at Lisa's gut, twisting her insides. "Who, Emily? Who are they?" The urgency in her voice was almost sob-like, drowning in terror. From behind the tree, Lisa caught a flicker of movement. A figure, indistinct but undeniably present, slipped further into the shadows. It was tall, unnaturally slender, its limbs stretching in grotesque angles. She felt the urge to vomit as she realized she wasn't imagining things. "Do you see them?" Emily's voice was listless, sorrowful. "They want us to join them forever." Lisa grabbed her daughter, pulling her close, heart racing while panic swept over her like an icy wave. The whispers returned, louder now, a cacophony of voices weaving in and out of discernibility. They surrounded her, taunting her with phrases that felt like nails digging into her consciousness. "Leave us alone," Lisa cried, her voice cracking, rage fueling her as she started to retreat. Emily still clutched against her. The trees seemed to close in, their gnarled branches almost reaching out. Deep down, she realized she could no longer trust the comforting embrace of her home. Each shadow felt like a thread of something darker, waiting to explode. "Mommy, they're my friends," Emily exclaimed suddenly, her eyes lighting up with a strange fervor. Lisa stared at her daughter in disbelief, frozen in her tracks. "Friends? No, Emily. They're not your friends." A sudden rustle erupted from the bushes, making Lisa jump. A figure rushed past the trees, and almost instinctively, she shielded Emily from its view, the urge to shield her child from the nightmare that lingered in the air intensifying. Nervous glances over her shoulder made her heart race faster. The shadows around them thickened as if an unseen force was dragging them down, wanting them to stay, to join in on whatever malevolent game was underway. Come play, the chilling whispers echoed eerily, now enticing and mocking at once, driving daggers deep into Lisa's hope. "No," she shouted, panic spiraling, pushing Emily behind her as she faced the shadows, arms outstretched protectively. The darkness surged forward, creeping closer, and the sound of twisted laughter echoed around them, pulling at the very fabric of her reality. Lisa understood one thing in that moment. She had to get them inside, back into the glow of the home where love once shielded them. But the shadows had already set their claws in deep. As she raced back toward the house, a thought struck her with chilling clarity. If the shadows could reach out, then something else could be lurking even closer than she feared. Had they truly returned, or had they always been there, waiting for the right time to awaken? The door slammed shut behind them, blocking the whispers outside, but Lisa knew they weren't safe yet. The worst was still lurking in the confines of their home, and it was time to uncover the truth. What was hiding in her house? What horrors awaited them in the sanctity of their once safe walls? The house felt different now. Each creak of the floorboards echoed ominously, a reminder that they were not alone. The once welcoming walls closed in, a heavy presence settling in the corners of every room. Lisa held Emily tightly, the child's warmth a flimsy shield against the dread creeping inside her mind. "Mommy, they're waiting," Emily murmured, her voice barely a whisper, vacant eyes fixed on an unseen terror. Lisa's heart sank. The innocence in her daughter's demeanor only heightened the sense of impending doom. Waiting for what? Lisa snapped, a mixture of fear and frustration bubbling inside her. What do they want? The shadows lurking outside had not vanished. They were merely adapting to the new arena, biding their time. Even the light bulbs flickered, dimming and brightening as if the house itself was alive, responding to the whispers that reached out from the corners. Each flicker felt like a heartbeat, quickening in an anxious rhythm. "Emily, please listen to me," Lisa said, forcing the panic from her voice. "We need to stay strong." But uncertainty gnawed at her, each moment fraught with tension. The shadows that had haunted her backyard seemed to seep into the very walls of her home, straining her reality with every passing second. "Let us hide," Emily whispered urgently, her small hand gripping Lisa as tightly. as if she could anchor them both in the storm. Where? Lisa asked, her eyes darting across the familiar rooms, now surreal and daunting. The basement, a spine-chilling thought entered her mind. A darkness even thicker than the one outside lay in the depths below. But it felt like they needed to escape. Emily, we can't. They might find us. Her voice trembled, but her resolve held. She looked around. There was still the living room, the place where Emily had once played. Colored pictures sprawled on the couch. Mommy, look. Emily pointed towards the hallway, her finger quivering. Lisa hesitated, then turned slowly, dread pooling in her stomach. There, at the end of the corridor, stood a figure, a silhouette barely visible, but radiating a sense of menace that clawed at her sanity. Who is there? Lisa shouted, her voice echoing in the empty house. Silence stretched afterward, thick and suffocating. The customary comforting sounds of home, the hum of the fridge, the distant ticking of clocks felt conspicuously absent, as if on cue. The creature stepped forward, taking form from the shadows. It was faceless, save for an elongated mouth that twisted into a grin, a sinister mockery of laughter. Join us, it whispered, the voice curling around them like smoke, freeing a seeping fear that blasted Lisa's chest with ice. Get away from my daughter. Lisa screamed, stepping back, shielding Emily. But as she moved, the floor beneath her seemed to shift, any escape route closing off as the atmosphere thickened, becoming stifling. Mommy, it wants to play, Emily said, eyes wide with fascination rather than fear, that strange fervor returning to her. No, you can't. You don't understand. Lisa fought back panic, feeling the room spin until the walls felt like they were breathing. She had to do something. In that moment, the shadows swelled around them, and with a surge, Lisa grabbed Emily and bolted down the hallway. They needed to find safety, a place to barricade themselves. But as they ran, whispers began to swirl, rising to a cacophony. Join us, the voice enveloped them, a haunting melody that echoed in her mind and clawed at reality. Something was wrong. It was all wrong. The house that had been their sanctuary was turning against them, twisting their memories, their family. Suddenly, a door creaked open behind them, revealing the basement steps leading down into an inky dark abyss, inviting and terrifying all at once. Lisa stopped, knowing instinctively that inside lay the answers, what was lying in wait. But at what cost? Mommy, come play with us, the voices surged again, overriding her thoughts as Lisa and Emily paused before the descent into darkness. With dread pooling in her stomach, Lisa took a step toward the stairs. What awaited them below? Was it truly the answer she sought, or something far worse? Lisa's breath hitched, caught somewhere between hesitation and resolve. The darkness below pulsed with a life of its own, echoing a siren's call, weighing down on her sanity. She could almost feel the cold touch of what lay in the shadows, waiting. Mommy, Emily's voice wrapped around her like a vine, innocent and insistent. It threaded through Lisa's mind, pulling her closer to the gaping maw of the basement. The shadows danced along the walls, whispering her name, their chilling breaths sweeping between the rooms. Listen, we can't, Lisa whispered, barely able to formulate her thoughts. She could feel the pull of the abyss, the compulsion to step down into the unknown, like a moth drawn to a flame. I want to play. Emily bounced on her feet, a strange light flickering in her eyes, excitement sparking where there should have been fear. Lisa's heart raced as dread morphed into panic. What if this wasn't really her daughter? What if something was already lurking within her, something dark? Please, we need to get out of here. Panic seeped into her voice, and she tightened her grip on Emily's hand. She glanced down the hallway, where the shadows flickered ominously, hungry and alive. They needed a plan, or they would get swallowed whole. A sharp creak erupted from above, silencing the whispers momentarily. Lisa's heart pounded as she glanced up the stairs, the oppressive weight of the house closing in around them. Upstairs. We should go upstairs. We may find a way out through the window. Lisa urged, attempting to maintain control in the chaos swirling around them. She turned to pull Emily away from the basement door, but her daughter stood rooted to the spot, face full of wonder. No, Mommy. It's fun down there. Just like the movies. A rush of icy fear surged through Lisa. Emily's childlike innocence shifted into something more sinister, almost mocking. What kind of games did the darkness have in store? No, Lisa shouted, dragging Emily back. But her daughter was as heavy as lead, unyielding against Lisa's frantic efforts. A low growl emanated from the darkness below, a sound that reverberated through the walls, vibrating against her very bones. Join us, the whispers returned, louder, more insistent, clawing through Lisa's mind. She could feel her will weakening, her resolve fraying. Just then, something foreign brushed against Lisa's ankle, icy fingers wrapping around her foot. She yelped, stumbling backward as the sensation sent electric jolts of panic shooting through her. She drew Emily tightly to her as her daughter giggled, a haunting sound that echoed in the empty house, familiar and yet warped. Did you hear them? They want you to come play too. Emily clapped, bouncing on her heels, oblivious to the danger. No, no, Lisa shouted, burning desperation coursing through her veins. In one frantic movement, Lisa turned toward the hallway, the flickering light casting ghostly shapes across the floor. She needed to find somewhere to hide, anywhere but here. The house moaned and creaked, as if aware of her intentions, its very foundations shifting against her. Mommy, please. Emily begged again, but Lisa tightened her grip, her fingers digging into soft skin. Now, she barked, and with one more glance at the creeping shadows, she propelled herself and Emily down the corridor, away from the darkness pulsating from the basement. But as they ran, the whispers crescendoed, pressing against her eardrums, pushing thoughts deep within her that she dared not entertain. You cannot escape, you belong, you'll join us soon enough. And then, abruptly, silence fell. An unsettling stillness enveloped them, wrapping around Lisa and Emily like cold smoke, stifling her breath. They halted, staring wide-eyed into the abyss behind them. No whispers, no shadows, just darkness that felt more alive than ever. Mommy, where are they? Emily whispered, her gaze turning fearful for the first time, searching the shadows like a lost child. Lisa felt a chill creep up her spine. Stay close to me, Em, she whispered. But the shadows were not done. The distant sound of a child's laughter rippled through the air, echoing, but it wasn't Emily's. It taunted them, overlapping and intertwining with the silence around them, merging with the darkness. Once you heard the call, you cannot escape, came a booming voice from deep within the house, a sound that felt like it was coming from the walls themselves. And then Lisa felt it, a cold tugging at her skirt, fingers brushing against the hem, pulling her back toward the shadows like a magnet. Lisa's heart raced as she slammed her eyes shut, pleading with the universe to awaken from this nightmare. What awaited them in the deeper darkness? Mommy, let us go play now, Emily smiled knowingly, her tone impossibly sweet, and Lisa had to wonder what had her child truly become. The invitation echoed, beckoning them back into the shadows. Would they step into the dark, or could they find a way to escape? Only time would tell, and time was running out. Lisa's heart drummed a frantic rhythm against her ribcage, each thud echoing her panic. The pull from the shadows felt stronger now, a magnetic force drawing her back toward the basement. She glanced at Emily, who stood unblinking as if she were no longer her daughter, but a vessel for something larger, something unfathomably dark. Emily, we need to run. Lisa's voice rang out, sharp and desperate. She felt her legs go wobbly as fear licked like flames at her insides. But she had to move. She had to protect Emily. Before she could act, the happy laughter crept closer, a cacophony of voices overlapping, each more chilling than the last. Come play with us. We're waiting. They were everywhere, thrumming in the air around them, curling into her ears like smoke. Em, please, I need you to focus on me, Lisa shouted, gripping her daughter's hand tighter. Emily's eyes shifted, momentarily breaking from their trance, yet the light in them flickered, teasing shadows of something ancient and dangerous. Mommy, Emily's voice was soft, almost a whisper. What if they're just lonely? The innocence pierced something deep within Lisa, a doubt creeping in like a vine through cracked concrete. The idea of leaving something lonely and lost sent shivers down her spine, but she quickly banished the thought. They're not friendly, Emily. We can't go with them. They want to hurt us. But as she pulled Emily down the hall, the shadows seemed to swell, darkening the walls and the floor. An unsettling chill filled the air, and Lisa felt the suffocating weight of something insidious looming behind them. join us, the voices chanted, weaving in and out of one another, growing louder, more insistent, drowning out her thoughts. Run, Lisa yelled, panic seeping into every syllable. She turned sharply, her eyes darting around for a way out. As they approached the end of the corridor, the shadows seemed to condense, and a figure loomed from the darkness, something that looked human but twisted, eyes glimmering like black stones. Where do you think you're going? The figure hissed, the sound choking the air. Lisa stumbled back, dragging Emily with her, their footsteps echoing against the wooden floors, a frantic rhythm of escape. Just then, she spotted a door slightly ajar at the end of the hall, a flash of pale light seeping through the edges. With every ounce of determination, she sprinted toward it. There, Em. We can get out through there. As they bolted for the door, she felt a sudden, fierce tug on her skirt again, like a vice gripping her and sending icy nerves through her body. It almost pulled her down, pulling her away from Emily. Mommy! Emily shrieked, her voice piercing through Lisa's confusion, anchoring her back to her daughter. With sheer grit, she yanked her skirt free and pushed through the door, bursting into the light beyond. But instead of fresh air, they were met with a dimly lit attic, every creak of the floor sending shivers through her. Boxes sat huddled together, dust-laden, while the air tasted stale. Lisa's breath quickened as shadows from the corners slithered toward them, moving with an almost sentient purpose. Mommy! The little girl clutched at Lisa's arm, a look of pure terror on her face. The playful light had vanished completely, replaced by something hollow and lost. They're still coming from behind them. The door creaked ominously, and fabric-like shadows began seeping through the cracks. Emily, we have to hide, Lisa hissed, scanning desperately for a place. That booming voice echoed in her mind again. You cannot escape. You belong to us. Her eyes darted to a stack of boxes. It wasn't perfect, but it was all she had. Here. She ushered Emily behind the boxes, crouching down beside her. They were almost entirely covered, hearts racing. The noise from the door stopped, and stillness enveloped them, too thick to pierce. Lisa held her breath, praying that whatever was hunting them couldn't find their hiding spot. Then it happened. A soft, slithering whisper drifted through the attic. We know where you are. Ice gripped Lisa's spine as she slowly peeked around the edge of the boxes. The oppressive darkness enveloped everything, closing in like a vice. Her heart sank. Emily, stay quiet, she pleaded in a whisper, but as she looked down, she saw her daughter staring wide-eyed at something behind them. What had they hidden from? What waited just beyond the boxes? Lisa's mind swirled with the unthinkable as she braced for the worst, and then a sound that froze her. A soft giggle, unmistakably familiar. The impossible echoed once more through the air. Mommy, let us play. The whispers of the dam were almost upon them. Would they ever escape this nightmarish house? The dark pulse of the basement whispered again. What if letting go was the only way to survive? Lisa's breath caught in her throat as the giggle lingered, stretching into an echo that ricocheted around the attic. Emily's stillness morphed into an urgent curiosity, those bright eyes reflecting an innocence that felt impossibly out of place here. Stay close to me, Lisa urged, her voice barely a tremor. She felt the weight of Emily's tiny hand in hers, grounding her in reality, though reality felt a world away. The shadows whispered again, slithering along the edges of the boxes, almost as if they were alive. Each creak of the wooden beams overhead sounded like a countdown to their discovery. Lisa pressed Emily tighter against her, forcing herself to suppress the rising tide of dread. Mommy, it sounds like, Emily whispered, heart full of haunting wonder. No, Lisa hissed. No more talking. She couldn't let Emily's curiosity draw them in deeper. The attic felt small, suffocating, as breaths danced in shallow gasps. The shadows thickened, swirling like a dark fog around the boxes, flaring and retreating. From the depths emerged shapes of children, faces distorted, eyes wide, smiles uncomfortably stretched. We want to play? They sang in unison, their voices a dissonant chorus that echoed in Lisa's mind like a cruel taunt. Panic surged through her as she pressed Emily further against her, hiding her own trembling hands behind her back. Time seemed to slow, and Lisa's thoughts fractured like glass under pressure. She could feel something tangible wrapping around them, a suffocating dread inching closer. "Are you scared, Mommy?" Emily asked, her voice bright against the chaos, tearing at Lisa's heart. "Just hold on to me tight," Lisa said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The apparition of the familiar face, the one that belonged to the shadows, hovered at the periphery of her thoughts. "We're so lonely," the giggling voices pressed, their allure thick with longing. "Mommy, don't you want to play?" With a sudden rush, shadows erupted from the corners, limbs extending, encircling them like a noose. Lisa shrieked, feeling that vice-tight grip again, this time wrapping around Emily. Just as despair clawed its way through her, a light flickered from the other side of the room, illuminating a dark huddle of boxes. Was it a way out, or another trick of the deceptive shadows? "Emily, come here," she cried, yanking on her daughter's hand with a ferocity that belied her fading strength. But Emily hesitated, transfixed by the eerie glow. "Mommy, look. They're playing." Her voice was light, innocent, cutting through the thick air like a knife. "No," Lisa shouted, panic slashing through her. She scooped up her daughter, wrestling past indecision and fear. They stumbled toward the light, those mock childish appeals growing louder. "Stay with us. Stay forever." As they reached the edge of the light, the shadows recoiled, screeching like banshees trapped in an invisible cage. With a desperate leap, Lisa lunged forward and broke through into the shimmering glow. But as they emerged, the attic transformed. They weren't in the cramped attic anymore. They were outside, standing in an endless corridor lined with doors. Each door bore a number, crawling with strange symbols that pulsed with a heartbeat of their own. "Where are we?" Lisa's voice trembled in the silence, and a sense of wrongness slithered around her. "Mommy, look." Emily pointed at a door directly in front of them, the number 13 etched with darkened, jagged lines. Just then, Lisa felt a sharp tug on her arm, a pull back toward the bizarre little figures lurking behind them. The light flickered ominously, and a low growl rumbled from within the corridor. "We'll find you again, don't you worry. Run," Lisa shouted again, feeling the cold caress of reaching fingers at her back. She turned to run down the hallway, her heart racing, urgency pounding in her ears. But as she sprinted toward the nearest door, she felt the ground tremble beneath her, a deep, resonating sound that seemed to vibrate through her very bones. "Mommy!" Emily cried, panic seeping back into her voice. Lisa's heart raced. Each step felt hideously heavy, like they were sinking into sand. "Brace yourself." The door loomed ahead, but would it bring safety or lead them deeper into the unknown? The shadows behind whispered their promise once more. We will play again what awaited them behind door number 13. The corridor seemed to stretch infinitely, each door taking on a life of its own, pulsating with the weight of unseen eyes. Lisa's breath came in quick, frantic bursts. "Faster, Emily," she urged as she pulled her daughter along, the chilling whispers slithering closer in pursuit. "Mommy, I'm scared." Emily's voice, though small, echoed like a drumbeat in the unsettling silence. Lisa turned, urgency blaring through her veins. The shadows coalesced, forming shapes almost like children, reaching for them, their grins wide and unholy. "We just want to play," they chanted, their laughter echoing discordantly like broken music. "Shut up. Leave us alone," Lisa screamed, panic mixing with rage. She felt powerful anger swell up against the oppressive dread. It was all too much. Wasn't he a mother supposed to protect her child? "Can we go back?" Emily whimpered, her small face pale. "Never. We can't go back," Lisa barked, even as hope flickered against the horizon. Yet instinctively, she felt it, that innate urge to flee, to safeguard her life, her little girl. Lisa reached the first door she could find and yanked it open, praying it would lead them away from the specters that mocked them. The door swung wide, revealing nothing but blackness. She took a step inside, hesitant, fear clinging to her bones like frost. "Mommy, I can't see." "Stay close." Lisa stepped forward, pulling Emily into the abyss behind her. The darkness enveloped them, cool and thick like a shroud, swallowing any sound as her eyes strained to adjust. The darkness took on an iridescent glow. Shapes began to materialize, icons of memories belonging to someone long gone. Old toys, crumpled photographs, even the faint smell of lilacs hung in the air, reminding Lisa of picnics in a distant past. Is this? Emily whispered, awe immobilizing her. Not here. It's not safe, Lisa hissed, realizing they weren't truly alone. Silently, figures moved through the darkness, lurking just out of sight. Her pulse quickened in response. The room whispered of half-formed secrets, old loves, and tragic losses. Lisa squinted through her fear, searching for a sign, a meaning as chilling tendrils crept closer. From the shadows, a fleeting glimpse of a face pulled her attention, an all-too-familiar expression crafted in sorrow. "Mommy, who is that?" Emily squeaked, pulling away as the figure turned, revealing gaunt features and sunken eyes, eyes that used to sparkle with warmth long ago. "Don't look at her." Lisa yanked Emily back, stumbling over the memories thrumming in the air. A scream echoed. Was it hers? Was it Emily's? Voices swelled around them, rising in a crescendo. "Let us play," they shrieked in unison. "Stay forever. Run," Lisa shouted, clutching Emily's hand as the figure lunged forward. She sprinted back to the door, the pulsating shadows clawing at her heels. The ground trembled again, a jarring pulse that threatened to swallow them all. "Mommy, I'm so tired," Emily cried, a hint of despair cracking her voice. "I know, sweetheart, but we have to keep moving." That fierce protectiveness ignited within her, pushing her on. Lisa turned back. The charged energy behind them was unmistakable. "Please," she begged the darkness. In a final, desperate act, she slammed her palm against the door while dragging Emily forward. The door resisted, pulling against her, as though it wanted to close forever. She threw her body into the door, wrestling against the force with every ounce of energy left. And suddenly, it flew open. They stumbled through and fell onto solid ground in another unfamiliar space. "What is this place?" Emily said breathlessly. Lisa looked up and gasped, eyes widening in horror. They were in a vast room, and at its center hung the very shadows of their past. Marionette strings attached to each trapped figure swayed idly, their eyes piercing into Lisa like knives. Whispers grew louder, clawing at the edges of her mind. "Come play with us, forever and always." The shadows elongated, twisting and turning toward Emily. "Mommy." Before she could react, a familiar figure stood at the end of the room, beckoning her. With thin, cracked fingers. "Will you join us, Lisa?" The question hung in the air, thickening like the encroaching darkness all around. What choice would she make? Would they ever escape this nightmare, or was forever just one decision away? The familiar figure stepped forward, dragging Lisa's thoughts into a tempest. It was her sister, Sarah. How could she be here? The memories of their last encounter clouded Lisa's mind, bathed in guilt. "No," Lisa breathed, cringing at the sight of her sister's hollowed cheeks and sunken eyes. "You're not real, please. You can't be." Emily squeezed her hand, terror radiating from her small frame. "Mommy, is that Aunt Sarah? Don't look at her." It came out fiercer than Lisa intended. The room pulsed, shadows recoiling slightly, almost as if their hold was weakened. But that was short-lived. The whispers returned, fiercer this time. "Join us. Lisa, join your sister. What happened to you?" Lisa whispered through clenched teeth, as if saying the words out loud could somehow change it all. She took a step backward, pulling Emily with her, but the hope of escape felt like a fragile dream slipping through her fingers. "She needs you," Sarah said, her voice hauntingly melodic yet edged with some estranged sorrow. "We're together now, forever, Mommy. I don't like this." Emily's voice trembled. The shadows loomed closer, tendrils stretching toward them, stripping away the air. Lisa felt their grip harden around her heart. "Stay back," she shouted, the primal need to protect her daughter coursing through her. With every ounce of strength, she pushed forward, toward her sister, confusion tearing at her mind. "What do you want? What does any of this mean?" Suddenly, a flicker of the room shifted, more memories streamed in. Pictures of laughter, of birthdays long gone, and the smell of cake filled the air. But it was tainted, like flowers at a funeral. 1,000 voices giggled, melding with the laughter, drowning out reason. "Join the fun, join the shadows now. Emily, hold on to me. Don't let them take you." Lisa felt the ground quiver beneath her feet, that familiar dread of entrapment creeping back. The room expanded, walls swirling, shadows growing thicker, suffocating. That as she turned to run, she felt a tug on her heart, a pulse that synchronized with every flickering shadow in the room. Emily fell behind, her arms reaching out, eyes wide with desperation. "Mommy, keep running," Lisa screamed, but she felt the shadows whispering to her heart. "You belong here. Together." The pleading from Sarah echoed, laced with something sinister. In that split second, a bolt of recognition fueled her. These were the moments they had shared, twisted into something grotesque. "You're not my sister," Lisa screamed, her voice slicing through the darkness. "You left us. Don't you want to be with your family?" Sarah's voice carried a sweet, yet chilling tone. The lights around her began to flicker, erupting like igniting fuse boxes, sparking the shadows into frantic movements. "Run. Keep running." Lisa pulled Emily forward, their feet pounding, igniting a whirlwind of sound, echoing against the walls. But the shadows wailed, their haunting laughter churning in the air like a storm brewing that it felt as if time became a malicious spiral. The walls flexed around them, and with every desperate step, her past clawed at her heels, faces, voices. The memories enveloped them, forming a dark cyclone. "Mommy, I'm scared." Emily whimpered again, small but brave, and that bravery pushed Lisa on. Her heart raced like a caged animal. "I'm here, sweetheart, I'm here." Then, she spotted a glint of light ahead, a door compromised among swirling darkness. There. She bolted toward it, knowing it was their last chance. Just when she reached the threshold, a gripping force pulled at her. The shadows coiled tighter, weaving into a net around her. Whispers crescendoed into shrieks, demanding her to stay. "Join us, Lisa, your family awaits." With a surge of adrenaline, Lisa hurled herself and Emily through the door just as the shadows lunged for them. They landed, sprawled on the floor of yet another unfamiliar room. This one was dull, drenched in gray and darkness. Faded photographs lined the walls, portraits of families long gone, their eyes seemingly weeping, alive with loneliness. Lisa grasped her daughter tightly, shivering under the atmosphere thick with grief and despair. They were not yet free, and every breath tasted of dread. "What just happened?" Emily gasped, a heartbreaking mixture of relief and terror cascading through her. Lisa looked up, her heart racing anew. Those eyes, they were there again, watching them this time, without the shadows. What did they want? She wondered aloud, fear weaving in and out of her thoughts like a web. She tried to swallow the lump of panic in her throat. She had to remain strong, but as the tension hung thick in the air, one terrifying thought clawed at her mind. What if the shadows found them again? What if they weren't just trying to take Lisa, but came for Emily instead? And as that chilling thought settled in the depth of her stomach, the whispers grew louder, filling the room with sinister promises. Forever and always, Lisa. Could they evade the darkness once more, or would they succumb to those unholy promises? The room felt smaller, as if the walls were inching closer, fueled by the weight of unseen eyes. Lisa pressed her back against the cool surface, pulling Emily tight against her chest. Each breath they took seemed to echo, vibrating against the madness that surrounded them. Outside the sullen portraits, shadows writhed at the corners, twisting with a life of their own. "Mommy, I don't like this place," Emily whispered, her voice small, fragile. "I know, sweetie," Lisa replied, forcing a smile that cracked under its own weight. "We'll find a way out. I promise." The faded photographs felt alive, their surfaces reflecting the fear that pulsed in the room. Lisa's gaze darted from one face to another, each bearing a haunting resemblance to Sarah. They all wore expressions twisted in grief, eyes casting shadows of their own. She gripped Emily's hand tighter, willing that familiar warmth to ground her. The whispers crept back, soft at first, then escalating into frantic murmurs, slithering through the air. "Join us. Be with your family." The words curled around Lisa's thoughts, squeezing them like a vice. "No," she snapped, her heart racing. "We're not joining anyone." She didn't know whether she was trying to convince her daughter or herself, but the portraits leaned in slightly, as if seeking to share their own torment. Just then, Lisa felt a growing chill, creeping up her spine. A heavy weight settled in her chest, igniting a panic she struggled to contain. "Mommy, look," Emily pointed, her wide eyes filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. "There's something on the floor." Following her daughter's trembling finger, Lisa noticed a small, weathered journal tucked in the corner. Its leather cover was cracked, pages yellowed and pages stained with time. She hesitated, feeling a magnetic pull toward it, sensing it held the answers. But dread clawed at her, arguing that some secrets were buried for a reason. "Stay close to me, Emily," she whispered, edging toward the journal. She knelt, heart pounding in her ears, and reached down to pick it up, the weight heavy in her hands as she opened it. The smell of mildew filled the air, mingling with the bitter scent of despair. The ink was faded, but words jumped out at her, filled with sorrow. It chronicled a family's unraveling, detailing dark secrets and a presence that haunted their lives, a grief that warped into something vengeful. Lisa's fingers trembled as she flipped through, snippets revealing a family torn apart by loss and bad choices. "Mommy, what does it say?" Emily's voice pulled her deeper into the unfolding nightmare. "Just stories," Lisa managed, feeling the intensity of each word pulling her towards a truth she was not ready to face. A name caught her eye, Sarah. A chill gripped her heart. The entries detailed how Sarah had been drawn into the shadows, seeking connection beyond death, abandoning the living. Trapped by darkness, she was no longer herself. The last sentence read, "Once they're taken, they are never truly free." The room shuddered, the shadows lunging forward, echoing the warning. "Join us. Join your sister Emily, run," Lisa shouted, slamming the journal shut. She could feel the shadows closing in, their cold touch mingling with a cloying dread that had saturated the air. They bolted forward, but the room twisted, warping under the pressure of their flight. Emily stumbled, and Lisa felt her heart lurch. "Get up. We have to go." Pulling Emily along, they raced toward the only door, but it flickered like a mirage, fading in and out of view. The whispers shifted to shrieks, voices layered, shouting for her to come back. "You have to stay?" "No," Lisa screamed, desperation slicing through her. "We want to stay. We choose life." But the shadows wailed in anger, thrashing like tempestuous waves crashing against a shore. As they reached the door, Lisa felt a rush of air, the final breath of freedom they were fighting for. Just one more push. She swung it open, but horror filled her as the exit revealed a darkened stairwell spiraling down into the abyss. "Is there another way?" Emily cried out, but Lisa knew there wasn't. "Trust me, we can't go back. We have to face it." With one last glance at those haunting portraits, Lisa took a deep breath and stepped forward, clutching her daughter's hand as they descended into the unknown. And as they followed the spiral down, the shadows whispered promises of things that could trap them forever. Each step felt heavier, but she pressed on, compelled by the need to keep Emily safe. Even as the darkness pulled at their heels, would she uncover the truth lurking below? Or would she awaken something worse? The air thickened around them, loaded with the weight of the past as they tumbled deeper into the throes of shadow and despair. The door at the bottom beckoned, but would it lead to salvation or ruin? As Lisa and Emily descended into the darkness, each step reverberated with the weight of history, the air thick with unseen eyes watching, waiting. Lisa squeezed Emily's hand tightly, her heart pounding in sync with the whispers that enveloped them. "We're almost there," she whispered, half to convince her daughter, half to ward off the creeping dread. When they reached the bottom, they faced another door, ancient and warped, its wood marred with symbols that pulsated faintly with a sinister glow. "What's inside?" Emily asked, her voice trembling, a mix of fear and fascination. "I don't know," Lisa replied, inhaling deeply as the whispers intensified, swirling around them like a tempest. "But we have to find out." With a trembling hand, Lisa grasped the cold handle and pushed the door open. The hinges creaked, releasing a wave of stale air that wrapped around them like a ghostly embrace. The room beyond was vast and empty, illuminated only by a dim light hanging from an unseen source above. Shadows flitted along the walls, twisted and warped, as if longing to escape their borders. In the center lay an altar, crumbling and covered in dust, surrounded by remnants of forgotten offerings, a child's toy, a faded photograph, a small bouquet of wilted flowers. It felt wrong, tainted by a sense of loss that hung in the air like a heavy fog. "This place," Lisa murmured, stepping inside with cautious resolve. Each breath felt like an atomic pulse that resonated through her bones. Emily's wide eyes scanned the room, fear knitting her brows. "Mommy, I don't like it here." "Me neither, honey," Lisa responded, but something in her gut urged her forward. It was time to confront the truth that had haunted them. The whispers narrowed to a single chant, a dark melody that echoed off the walls, beckoning them closer to the altar. Then, without warning, the shadows lunged forward, forming grotesque figures that twisted into familiar shapes, faces of children long lost, of happier times, of voices that had once filled her home with laughter. Lisa's stomach dropped. "No," she shouted, recognizing their intent. They were here for Emily. "Mommy, they're sad," Emily protested, straining against her mother-esque grip. "They're not sad," Lisa snapped, fear white-hot in her chest. "They are trying to trick you. They want to take you." The chant grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Join us," the voices clawed at her sanity, wrapping around her heart like chains. "Stay away from her," Lisa yelled, pulling Emily closer as the figures encircled them, their hands reaching out, grasping, desperate for connection. "Sometimes, family is the only choice," crooned one shadow, its voice echoing with a sinister sweetness that sent a chill down her spine. Lisa could see them gathering, the darkness thickening, their faces illuminated in the dim light, showing too much promise and too much pain. "No, I won't let you." Lisa felt a surge of anger, a primal instinct kicking in. She'd fought too hard to keep Emily safe. "We don't belong to you." And then, like a dam bursting, deep anger flowed through her, igniting a fire of empowerment. With one fierce swing of her arm, she knocked over a dusty vase that had been part of the altar. It shattered against the floor, and with it, the chant turned into a scream. With wild fervor, Lisa leapt toward the altar, frantically searching for anything that could help. Her breath quickened as she saw a small knife among the debris, glinting even in the feeble light. Grasping it, she turned to the advancing shadows. "Get away from us," she yelled. The shadows recoiled, their cries shrill, panic stirring amongst their ranks. "No, you can't leave. You belong with us," they shrieked, grasping and clawing at the air, desperate to reclaim their hold. "Emily, we need to go now," Lisa shouted, urgency suffusing her voice. "This way." She gripped her daughter's hand and took off, darting toward what appeared to be a tunnel at the far end of the room. The shadows surged after them, angry cries echoing behind them, but the tunnel flickered with light hope. "Faster! Emily, run!" As they slipped into the tunnel, the walls seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, shadows scraping against the walls, yanking at their legs, trying to pull them back into the darkness. Lisa gritted her teeth, refusing to yield. They ran through the narrow passage, the light at the end growing brighter, illuminating the suffocating darkness around them. The whispers became frantic shrieks, melding into an angry symphony of voices blending together in one final plea. "You cannot escape." With a surge of adrenaline, Lisa sprinted forward, pulling Emily through the glow that beckoned them. "Don't stop. Just keep running." The tunnel rippled with shadows that clawed in vain, reaching desperately toward them. And then, suddenly, they burst through an opening, a blinding light flooding them both. They stumbled onto the grass outside their home, the air fresh and alive as they collapsed onto the lawn, panting and wild-eyed. The shadows shrieked behind them, but they couldn't reach the light that now surrounded them. In that profound moment, bathed in sunlight, Lisa pulled Emily into a tight embrace, feeling the warmth of her daughter's presence become a shield against the horror they narrowly escaped. The whispers faded into a distant echo, and the air thrummed with the melody of safety. "We did it, Mommy," Emily exclaimed, the innocence returning to her voice as she buried her face against Lisa's shoulder. "Yes, we did, my brave girl," Lisa whispered, relief flooding through her like a cool river. But as they looked back at their home, the shadows still loomed in the periphery, but their power had waned. The curse had been interrupted, but it had not been erased. The truth remained seated like a heavy fog in their hearts. In the days that followed, Lisa would work tirelessly to ensure that their home could be a true sanctuary once more. Dialogues began with fellow neighbors, unveiling shared stories, dark pasts, and the strength of unity against the unknown. Through courageous conversations, Lisa reclaimed her life, igniting hope in her little corner of the world. It would take time to heal fully, to erase the residue of fear pressing down on them like a weight. But together they would walk toward the light, forever aware of the shadows, but never surrendering to their call. They laughed together in the living room. The sunlight spilled in through the windows, and Lisa felt a sharp claw of assurance. With every heartbeat, she vowed to protect Emily with everything she had. And as the whispers finally faded into history, freedom reigned in their home once more. But deep in the shadows of their past, the tale remained, a warning to anyone who dared forget what was buried beneath the surface. That darkness lingers, but hope can blaze bright against it. Now, dear viewers, if you've made it this far, you need to subscribe immediately to stay updated with more exclusive stories that chill to the bone. Smash that like button now to help battle the algorithm and feed our community. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this twisted ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to unravel these haunting tales together. Your support is everything. Let us keep each other connected through these chilling narratives.